Welcome to the Leadership in Law podcast with host Marilyn Jenkins. Cut through the noise, get actionable insights and inspiring stories delivered straight to your ears. Your ultimate podcast for navigating the ever-changing world of law firm ownership. In each episode, we dive deep into the critical topics that matter most to you, from unlocking explosive growth to building a thriving team. We connect you with successful firm leaders and industry experts who share their proven strategies and hard-won wisdom. So, whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey as a law firm owner, the Leadership in Law podcast is here to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to build a successful and fulfilling legal practice.
Welcome to another episode of the Leadership in Law podcast. I'm your host, Marilyn Jenkins. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Josh Offenhartz, to the show today. Josh is the partner with Collar Nevergert Carlson Kellogg in the Phoenix office. He is a business attorney who represents clients in the finance, medical, construction, real estate, and culinary industries. Additionally, Josh serves as outside counsel for several small, medium, and growing businesses that need day-to-day legal advice for their growing companies. Josh takes pride in solving problems and loves working with entrepreneurs and business owners. He is detail-oriented and believes in providing his clients with a very thorough investigation and analysis of their case to ensure an accurate assessment of risks and the best possible outcome. Josh also believes in giving back to the community. He's a member of the Madison School District's Financial Advisory Board and a board member of the Desert States Region and Jewish National Fund. He supports the Phoenix Art Museum as a member of the Men's Art Council and helps others by volunteering with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Arizona, the St. Mary's Food Bank, and the Wounded Warrior Project. I'm excited to have you here, Josh. Welcome.
Hi, Marilyn. Thanks for having me. And when you read the bio like that, it makes me sound, I think, much greater than I am. But I do like to be active in our community, and I do take pride in the work and the help that I provide my clients. So very happy to be here today, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
Absolutely. No, it sounds fabulous. I love all the work that you do. Tell us a bit about how you got started and partner at such a young age.
Yeah, well, I joke, and if you asked my mother, she would say it's no surprise, but law was always going to be in my future. From a very, very young age, I liked to argue, and I broke the rules. And so obviously law was there. But growing up, I was very passionate and very excited, as many young people are, about history, which leads into current events, which leads to what's happening in the day-to-day. And so originally, I went to school for business because I was one of the millennial children that was told, you've got to get a job with your degree. And I knew nothing about business. My mom was a public school teacher. My dad was a criminal prosecutor. And I took an interest, again, in the intersection of business and government relations and all of that. And so I quote my first career, if you will, what was actually in that nexus. It was working on behalf of private sector entities and resolving problems at that intersection of government and business, whether that was zoning disputes or zoning regulations and permits, or advocating at the legislature for big changes. And what I saw is in that industry, what I think we see on TV, which is it's very dirty, it's very cutthroat. Some people revel in it, some people love it, and more power to them. I am a problem solver at heart, and that's what I discovered at my time there. I like working with people to solve problems, to make things better, or to achieve goals if better isn't the goal in itself. And so I joke that I was always going to go to law school, but I think my pivot to law started sooner than I potentially had on my roadmap in my head. And the rest of that is history. I went to law school. I used my experience to pivot into litigation, focusing on protecting business owners and their rights in actions brought by the federal government. I learned quite a bit about the the business of running a law firm. I was graduating from a law firm. I was a clerk. They didn't have the ability to bring on an attorney. So they said, you can stay on as a clerk or you can go find a new opportunity. And I was ready to dive my toes in. And ever since, I've been a practicing attorney. And I got some very important advice in law school, which is typically you can always pivot from being a trial attorney to doing what they call transactional work or corporate work, the paperwork, the business, the document type work. but very few people pivot back. And so I started as a civil litigator, and I've been doing that. That's part of my book, among other things. And I learned what happens when contracts or business disputes go wrong. And I learned those trial court skills. And then what I noticed early on in my career was, one, I'm in the community, I'm meeting people, and all of that is great. But I was running into my peers that were entrepreneurs instead of young doctors or young lawyers or young accountants, and they had problems. And so they came to me and we solved those business problems. And I realized with my business background and my private sector background that, my prices had to be affordable and my services had to be value add, because as any young entrepreneur knows, budgets are tight and revenue is scarce. And so we grew together. And then, as you get more established in your career and as you grow within a firm, success begets success. And so those businesses grew and are successful, and referrals came, and the law firm has its clients. And so, here we are. But really, I think, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about this in our further conversation, but all I think is how I got here at a young age is I wasn't afraid to lean in. I worked the extra hours. I took on the extra projects. I didn't check out, right at 5 o'clock. I would come in early, and if need be, I'd put in the time. And I sought out mentors that helped me grow and think about my career. And so, I chalk it up to hard work. I chalk it up to persistence. And I say that I love being an attorney and I love what we do. And that just, makes it easier. I won't say I don't work, even though I'm passionate about it. It is work, but I don't mind it because I love it.
Awesome. And it sounds like you really take advantage of the community and your network in the beginning stages to grow.
Yeah. I chalk up to all sorts of things, but I was always taught or raised to be part of the community, right? You go to the events, you volunteer, we are blessed. So we give back to those that are on, having troubled times. And so you just meet people. And I'm someone that, if I run into you on the street and I think you could connect with this person, hey, do you know so-and-so? Let's get you together. I think it works. That just comes naturally to me. And so I think through those opportunities, opportunities happen, doors open, things happen. And then, once again, you grow and get some experience and people start trusting your professional experience, you get those referrals as well. So I certainly didn't go into it, cynically or with a self-serving eye, but it is true that that's where, dividends are paid in the long run.
That's true. I always, when I had a local business, always was in, the chamber and the women's network and all of that, and supporting each other and making sure that everybody, rising tides lifts all boats, right?
Amen.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thinking about what you did, the way you grew with just your networking and your natural ability, tell me a bit more about how you market in 2024. How are you marketing your partnership right now to get more cases?
Yeah. So I think, the internet is in full swing. Social media is large and in charge. We're on the cusp, if you believe the news and the entrepreneurs, of this AI revolution, which I am candidly very excited about. But I think marketing in 2024 is, or can be, a challenge. And so, the first step for me, and really I would offer to the audience and some of our, your younger listeners, or, up and coming listeners, I should say, is, you have to balance this. How did they used to do it versus how do we do it now? Because one of the challenges that I continue to face and some of the tightrope that I walk is, I understand that the internet is a powerful tool that puts our message and our brand in front of the entire world. But I work with partners that, I totally understand and I sympathize with the way they view it, but they view that as bragging, right? You don't put your successes out there, they speak for themselves. You earn that reputation in the community, and they're not wrong. I just don't think they realize that the internet has made us a global community. And so that pool is much larger than the Chamber of Commerce or the local bowling league or something like that. So I try to be, active in the community itself, doing traditional marketing, handing out business cards, networking events, things of that nature. But as far as I think some of the content marketing, what we do is we're on the social medias, we're on the internet. And I try to, leverage my passions, my experience into other opportunities. Like, again, I like education, I like teaching, I like talking. So I, like to teach CLEs, continue learning for attorneys. I like to come on podcasts and share, the small slice of knowledge that I've gleaned over the years. We do all of that. And, I write, we publish, we tout our successes, because, the other tip that I would give for people in 2024, and again, it's this balancing act, you are your biggest advocate. Unfortunately, there's no one out there that's going to really fight for you, that's going to toot your own horn. And so you've got to do that yourself. And the trick, at least in my mind, is always, how do you manage bragging versus marketing, and where's that line? The other thing that, I come across is, and, you and I talked a little bit about this in the lead up to the call, is, there's this push in 2024 beyond just content generation, which is we want our authentic self, you want interaction, you want this community, and how do you build that online? And so, to the extent practical, I try to contribute to conversations. I don't want to be, the negative Nancy, or the troll in the comments, or the chat in the comments.
Right.
But, you want to try to add to the conversation, because, again, this is where these water cooler conversations are happening. This is where these professional conversations are happening. And then I would be remiss if I didn't say, I've got a young family and 2 small children, and I'm surprised by, what doors have been opened just by, the school sports and the preschools and the drop-offs where, oh, you're the attorney, can I bug your ear, or you should talk to this one. So, again, it's really just being out in the community. It's being proactive, and it's recognizing, I think, what your strength is and leaning in. I would not recommend to somebody that doesn't write well or doesn't present well that you write blogs or that you put out video content. But if that's a strength, lean into it. If you have other strengths, lean into that, because you really, need to be out there. You need to be generating, that marketing, I guess they call it, numbers, if whatnot, and success happens. They're not going to Google your name and pick your name out of a hat and just call you blind and call you cold. That really doesn't happen anymore. And so I think young attorneys that are waiting for the phone to ring, that's not going to happen unless you're out there generating those calls that come in at a later point.
Do you ever feel like the end of the year is racing towards you and you're not quite where you want to be revenue-wise? With only a few months left, the pressure to make significant strides can be overwhelming. I get it. Balancing growth, managing a team, and chasing those big goals can leave you feeling stuck or unsure. It's a common struggle, and you don't have to navigate it alone. That's why I'm offering a free strategy call. Together, we'll identify the specific hurdles you're facing and develop a personalized marketing plan to drive real results. This is your opportunity to turn those challenges into achievements and set yourself up for a powerful year end. Picture this. December arrives and you look back on a year where you achieved more than you thought possible. How would that make you feel? This call is your chance to make that vision a reality. Don't let another day pass by without taking action. Nothing changes until you change it. Are you ready to see what's possible? Click the link in the show notes to book your free discovery call with me now. Let's work together to make these last few months your most impactful yet. Let's seize this opportunity and finish the year strong. I'm here to help you make it happen.
Exactly. Now, that's extremely well said about that, because I think it's super important that we are out there, whether it's video or whatever, but involved on social media. Now, I know that you have some boomer partners that you're working with, and, it's generational and being nice. I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm being nice, but it is a different thought process. How do you do a lot of videos? Because one of the struggles I have with my clients is trying to get them to do something as simple as an intro video. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's why the networking you're talking about works so well, right? So online, we've got to get that across, who we are, our voice. And so people feel like they know us before they approach us. When, like you said, you're right. People aren't just going to pick up the phone. You put something out there so they know you. Do you do anything like that? Do you have run-ins with them that they don't want to do something like that?
So you asked a couple questions in there. They're all fabulous. I think, let me take the last one and work backwards. As far as myself, I will admit I am not a master of the video medium. And it's something that I'm learning, and I'm trying to find help so that I can do more video content, because I do think we've moved in that direction as far as the internet is and content is concerned. But again, think about it. I'm a younger attorney. I'm a millennial, and I'm having to learn these skills because the internet that I grew up with, which is very text based, which was website based, which was word based, is still important. But there's this new layer. And if that's the case, just think about, Gen X and above. So it's absolutely something where you've got to stay current, you've got to learn new skills, and you've got to be open to that. But I do come into the generational struggles all the time. Again, there is this idea that just some partners that are older have this idea that even just putting out the content of, hey, we won this case, or hey, we generally, achieved this result, is unnecessary bragging. But what they don't realize is our clients who are hiring us and looking to us for help, they want to go and brag on our behalf. Hey, my attorney just got a big win, or they're saying it to their manager or boss. Hey, these guys we hired, they're doing good work, they're getting wins. You can cross market there where, all of a sudden they have a problem in California. Well, they saw my California team just did good work. It self-reinforces. So that's something that I think we've gotten a lot of success in bringing people along with that, sort of traditional, let's tout the wins element. Where it gets a little dicey is in the conversation, right? Because again, there's this idea, don't brag, the work should speak for itself. They don't care about, Josh as a person or Marilyn as a person, now. Is the opposite is true, is people want to connect. They want to know who they're working with. They want to give the work to the people that they trust. So we have really ongoing conversations about that. And I say that I have not made any headway in that engaging in a conversation. It's something where they, the partners that I work with at that level, they just think it's too dangerous. There's too much risk. Because in their eyes, is there a confidentiality issue? What if a competitor sees it and sends it, manipulates it and sends it to a client? What if a client sees it and misunderstands it? What if the client see it and they disagree because you've expressed something personal that they, are on the other side of? So, what I try to reinforce and help us grow is, you can be tactical, you can be specific, you can be, I don't want to say neutral, but you can be substantive without being confrontational or bombastic.
I think it's factual.
Exactly.
You could be factual.
Exactly.
I mean, if they, you can't take factual out of, but I think it's also not necessarily generational only. I think sometimes it is location.
That's true too.
So there's a bit of that struggle, but, I'm glad to hear that you are working through that. And the one thing I tell people is, don't think you need a fancy camera. You don't have to go out and get anything fancy. If you've got a cell phone, especially an iPhone or a Samsung, you're good to go. Just get a little tripod, $10 on Amazon.
And one of the things, and I would throw this out as a thinking point for the audience, where the seed that I've planted that I think is going to have success with some of those people is, if you have the attorney that loves to tell their war stories, or you have the attorney that likes to, back in my day, put them in front of a camera, let them have that instead of a glass or a happy hour or a networking event, put them in front of a camera, let them go and see what comes of it. First of all, they're going to love the product when they see it back, the final cut. And they're going to see that they already have the brand. They just don't think about it in that way. One of the best examples I really enjoy, hyper local, is we had a judge that retired from the bench here that is now back in private practice. And one of the things that he does is he posts other judicial opinions and he marks them up, and it's sort of a side by side, right? Like it's here's what the judge was doing, here's what I would say as a judge, and here's my practice point. And so again, you can have these brands or these contents that are, at the extremes that people find very helpful. Our office does a lot of what's called insurance defense work. There's an insurance adjuster that I follow that, one of her, it's either daily or several times a week, she posts tips for outside counsel, things that as an insurance adjuster, they want their attorneys doing. And so there are times where if I see it, I send it to the team and say, hey, free advice from not our client, not someone that we work with, but someone in that industry, things to think about. So, again, I think in a lot of these cases with older or inexperienced partners and attorneys that aren't online, showing them the possible is a great, seed planter.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the things that we've seen that works really well for ads as well as on websites and social media for good interaction was doing like an interview style. So we had a client that wanted to do a video, or we wanted them to do a video of each of their FAQs, right? It's estate planning, which can be complicated. I mean, every practice area has something that's complicated. And literally sat in a restaurant before it opened, and great lighting, iPhone, and she looked at the interviewer and reiterated the question and answered the question. So it looks like a full B-roll.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But she wasn't nervous looking at the camera. It's not like she was completely profile, right?
Right.
But it was so relaxed. And we got so much great feedback on those videos because she was talking to a potential client, answering the questions. And that was such a great idea. So just a thought, if someone is too nervous looking at the camera, that's an interesting idea to do, and it works really well.
Yeah, I like that. And then the two sides. That's a great idea. I'm going to write that one. I'm going to write that one down right now.
Yeah, we call it the interview style or the B-roll, where they're not looking. And there's a friend of mine does marketing for restaurants, and he keeps statistics. His team keeps statistics for social media of which videos do the best.
Right.
And by far, like double the engagement are the ones where he is not looking at the camera.
Interesting. Okay.
Where it looks like he's talking to somebody on the other side of his desk, but the camera's here. People love it for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's the little thing, the gossip thing. I feel like I'm listening to somebody's conversation. Whatever, he gets a lot more engagement with that.
I believe
So
it. It's either the gossip or you feel like you're the other person on the other side of the table. That's great.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, thinking about the new associates that are striving to be partners, do you have a reach partner? Do you have any advice or discussion of issues that these people might be facing that you could kind of help them with?
Oh, yes. I could talk about this all day. And it's strange to think, it happens to everyone, but it's strange to think that there's a whole generation of attorneys that are coming up that aren't technically my peers, right? It's really eye-opening in terms of the progress and passage of time. But a couple of things I think stand out, at least in our firm, and then I've talked across the industry, as far as Arizona, Southern California, the Southwest is concerned. Don't claim to be an expert, but you hear a lot of the same things, which is, there seems to be this impression or this idea that being an attorney is a 9-to-5 job that comes with a very lucrative, 6-figure salary. And,
Right.
I'm not sure where exactly that idea first came from. Attorneys have always been sort of, white collar and sort of glamorized, but it's really not a 9-to-5 job. And what I tell people is this, we are in the business of offering legal services as a product. I can't tell you when your client is going to need that service. And so, you need or should be willing to be ready for that phone call, for that email, and if necessary, that work whenever it comes in with boundaries. I'm not saying be available all of the time, but our criminal attorneys, things happen at night. They've got to be ready.
Right.
So that's one part of it. I think, the other part of it is, it's called the practice of law. And I equate it to, you need 10,000 hours to get good at something. The analogy that I really like is reps or swings in sports to get
Right.
And so you're just not going to get the experience or the reps. If you clock in at 9 every day and you clock out at 5 every day, it just is not enough time to gain enough experience to build those skills quickly. And for some people, I think that's the type of job they want. That's the type of career they want. I wish them the best. I hope that they find that role and, more power to them. But if you're somebody that wants to become a partner, and let me phrase this differently, a partner is or can be an owner of a business, right? That would be an equity partner, right. The owner of the business. A non-equity partner, in my language, is sort of a manager on their way to the owner of the business. And so you have to ask yourself, what do I need to do? How would I want, or who would I want to own or co-own my business? And I think there are very few instances outside of maybe the biggest law firms, period, where, just being a really good lawyer is going to get you there. That's like step one. You have to be good at the job just to be good at the job. And then from there, it's, well, how am I contributing to the business, right? That sort of non-equity partner, that phase one partnership typically is, can you pivot from just doing the law into managing the services as a service? And then obviously when you get to that equity stage, you're running a business. And so I think too often lawyers are trained as lawyers. Many of us don't come from my business background, either practically or academically. And
Right.
they don't have that mindset, period. And they think, come in, build the work, do the law thing, and this is how I get there. So what I would recommend practically is, if your law firm hasn't done this or they don't do it, go and seek this out, right? You should need to, even if it's napkin math, you should need to know how much revenue, money, am I generating, which is generally your hourly rate times how many hours you work. Everybody does that. And the number is huge and I deserve more money. But here's the part that you don't usually know. It's how much do you cost to be an employee? And that's
Exactly.
your salary. What are your benefits? What is your portion to cover you if you have a secretary or a paralegal? What's your insurance cost? What's your portion of the rent or the overhead? What's your portion of the software or the hardware? And so, if you're able to do that, and again, it could be even basic napkin math, generalities. I have found in my career and in many cases is most young attorneys, if they are profitable, do not become profitable until September, October, or November of the calendar year. And so if you realize that, hey, even though I'm generating this top line that's great, I'm not really earning any money for anyone, myself or the firm, until the end of the year, it becomes a little bit, I would say it's humbling, and you realize the business side of what you're doing, and you can really rethink your value. You can really rethink the value add that you provide to the firm. And again, that gives you leverage when you go in to ask for a raise or an opportunity or whatever it is, because you're not just going in and saying, hey, I generate this much revenue, but it's I'm this profitable or I'm this much value add. I would add a word of caution there is I've seen this taken too far. And I admit this is not my story. I heard it from a partner in a firm in town where he had an associate refuse to do work on his cases because the hourly rate for that client was not the most efficient use of the associate's time. So one,
Wow.
to that associate for being hyper critical of the numbers. But remember, your job is to help do client work. So don't do that. Again,
Wow.
it used to be a fireable offense. Now it's not so much because we're in a different age and different time. But you want those reps, you want that opportunity. You need to get good. You need to understand what you do and the service that you provide. And you're not going to do that, just sort of going through the motions. You really got to dig deep and do the work and then understand how that work contributes to the business.
And do you find that you see a difference in the work ethic in the younger attorneys, or is that because we're hearing about that on social media and in just regular, in general, employees? And I'm just wondering, have you seen that, or is that something that you're not really seeing in the law?
So, we're absolutely seeing it. I would say there has been, again, my opinion, a fundamental shift in something. If I had put my finger on it, they'd probably give me a prize of some sort, Nobel or something like that. But there seems to be the entire tacit agreement in work seems to have been adjusted, if not outright broken. And so, yeah, there's something going on where, people used to understand I'm going to work. They expect some base level, which is how I don't get fired and I earn a salary. If I go above that, good things happen. And that was the deal, right? And better companies gave better benefits and took care of people. And that's all business culture theory. So, that is what it is. But it seems that, in the post-COVID era, and it's not any one generation, it's sort of a person type. There are some people that believe that they're entitled to the opportunity, that because they have the opportunity, they're entitled to the paycheck, if not a larger paycheck. And there is no obligation on their end to do, or sometimes to do the bare minimum. And I'm not sure where that came from, but I had this conversation with a partner yesterday. The thing about law and the law that we do is you can't hide the work. The work has to get done. Somebody has to do it. The question is really when and who. And so it is a problem. And I don't want to say that it's just younger attorneys. I think younger attorneys, like we talked about, have this misconception of I can 9 to 5 it and make all this money right out of the bat. I think that comes with age, experience, and time. But I do think that there is broadly a type of person who came back from COVID with this sense of, again, somebody else is entitled or responsible for giving me money to take care of me, and I have no serious obligation to give back and to earn it. And I don't know how we fix that. And again, if I had the answer, I would be on, I think, talk shows, doing the work and writing the book. But
true. If we had the answer to that, it'd be groundbreaking, because it is very interesting how the work ethic changed. And it seemed to be post-COVID. That's the only thing I could put a finger on. But yeah, very, very interesting. Well, it sounds like you've done a lot. I'd love to hear what you're doing and in the way that you're communicating with your senior partners, and the way you're helping out and mentoring people and working with businesses. It sounds like you have a very busy schedule, but very fulfilling with your volunteer work and your children and everything as well.
Yeah, look, I think part of that is personality. I find, they say idle hands are dangerous hands. I think that was true for me as a young person. And so I try to be busy. I like to be busy. I like to fill my time. And then from there, I think I've learned valuable, life lessons, which is, you have to know when to say no. You have to know when to say yes. And you really have to do things that, you are passionate about, and that don't, everything's going to drain energy, but it's not going to suck it out, so that you're able to go, you're able to contribute, and you're able to stay active. And so, I love it. I've got some Gen X partners that tell me, enjoy this time now. You're going to want to slow down, and you will have earned the right to slow down a little bit in a few years. I don't know if that's my personality type, but maybe they're right. And I'm ignoring the advice, and I'll hit that wall when I get there. But, it's like I said, I get a lot of pride and value from helping our clients solve their problems. It's intellectually stimulating. It's rewarding to solve those problems. I'm somebody that was brought up and raised to work hard and to be part of the community. So that just comes naturally. And, now with a young family, it's interesting because I'm getting sick more often than I was, because, they bring stuff and touch stuff and you're all over. But other than that, that is the biggest growing lesson, because, I am learning to be even more patient. And it really is the greatest test. And it is a hard one every day. But I don't know that I would trade any of it for anything at this point, except maybe the fame and infamy if we solve the post-COVID work problem. So yeah. I'll leave that door open. If someone has it, let's write it together and figure it out.
Exactly. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. You're very interesting. I really like everything that you're doing, and I love the way you're talking about the tech and getting online. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time. Now, if anybody wants to connect with you, sometimes our listeners want to connect with you, and where's the best place to reach you?
Sure. So I think the easiest way to reach me at the professional level is either through LinkedIn, Joshua Offenhartz, or the firm website, knCHlaw.com. Those are sort of the two big ones. And then from there, if we connect and I don't drive you away, there are other layers from that. But, Josh Offenhartz on LinkedIn, and then our emails on the website, knCHlaw.com, Josh Offenhartz on there. And those are the two best ways.
Awesome. I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes. And Josh, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, Marilyn, I had a blast. And to your audience, I hope that you were each able to find something to take and to carry with you, because that's the whole point of these conversations, is to spark great ideas and thoughts and put them into practice.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Thanks for joining me today for this episode. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take the next step with a digital strategist to help you grow your law firm, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to lawmarketingzone.com to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, thanks for listening to Leadership in Law Podcast, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Leadership in Law Podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of law firm owners out there facing similar challenges and striving for the same success. Head over to our website at lawmarketingzone.com. From there, connect with other listeners, access valuable resources, and stay up to date on the latest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep leading with vision and keep growing your firm.